Okay. I'd like to switch gears a little bit to bring this question of a thermonuclear war on the table. Over the New Year's, there were a lot of different coordinated bombings in Iraq, largely Sunni and Shiite religious kind of violence, and especially in the period since our intervention into Libya, we've had an increase throughout the region of a lot of different kinds of religious violence, which we did not see before, which, you know, you had a relative peace amongst the religions in the region, and our role there has been essentially the British role of creating this environment of destabilization in general. Now, adding to this, you have the Russians and the Iranians have been doing different naval exercises. The Congress here in the United States has decided to send a couple of naval frigates over there, guided missile frigates, which are older, but it's still just adding a bunch of fuel on this, you know, on this fire as a region. So we do have, Walter Jones did reintroduce his, what was HCR 107, which is now HCR 3, which says that if the president goes to war without Congress, he becomes immediately impeachable. So there is that on the table. We've put out our fact sheet, and this is gaining legs in terms of getting Obama out of there. But if you could speak to this war threat and doing something about it, that'd be helpful.
Yes, I can speak to this war threat. I'm an old acquaintance of war threats. Been around for some time on this sort of thing. You know, the point is, what's the threat? It is not a threat from the Middle East. It's not a threat from North Africa. It's not really much of a threat from Asia. Where's it a threat from? From the transatlantic region of the United States, Britain, and Western Europe. That's where the danger comes from. There are other proximate areas of such infection. But the accession thing is between the government of the United States and the government of the British Empire, not Britain, the British Empire. And the British Empire includes Saudi Arabia as an integral part of the British Empire. For example, let's take a concrete case. You know, these formulas sometimes about what the problem is and how do you solve the formula. I don't think that solving the formula necessarily solves the problem. It may solve somebody's desire to feel good, but it doesn't do much good for mankind. So you still have a relic of the Roman Empire. And by the Roman Empire, I mean, first of all, the Roman Empire itself, then what you had in the more modern Greece, following that, what you had with the Venetian system, the old Venetian system. Then you had the new Venetian system, which came up in the 17th century. And then out of the new Venetian system, which opened its attack directly upon Northern Europe and Europe as a whole by an attack on France. So it was the so-called Dutch attack, including Descartes. Descartes was a key part of this thing. That filthy pig, Descartes. Descartes. Anyway. But anyway, so that after doing that, after this operation against France, the first operation against France, then what happened is that William of Orange, who was a key leader of this operation, the new Venetian party, invaded Britain and Ireland. And out of this process came a process in the early part of the 18th century, which established the British Empire before Britain itself became part of it. So then you had in the attack on the United States, or what was to become the United States, the war with the United States, became the next step. And the Napoleonic Wars then became the vehicle by which the Venetian, or the Venice system, or rather set up the replacement for France in this operation. And this established a British Empire. Now the British Empire has gone through a number of phases of development since that time. But the British Empire today, which rules over all of Africa by various devices, which rules over most of this area, which is endangered now in the east, in the nearby Asia, near Asia, and which exists in other places. So what you have out there is you have a British Empire, which is not based on what people think an empire is, some clunking old crown is out there with his staff or something. No, it's a system. Typical of the system is Tony Blair. Now, Tony Blair is the controller of our current president. He's the one that ushered our current president into his position as president in the United States. He's the one that launched the second war against Iraq, second Iraq War, which was a fraud. And what Tony Blair has done in his reign up to this point has been the chief agent of the British monarchy in terms of its rule over most of the planet. Now, obviously, the solution should be self-evident. Break it up. And if the United States has a presidency and a Congress which says, get rid of it, it will go, because all of Europe is bankrupt, especially Western and Central Europe. They haven't got a prayer unless this is done. What we had in this thing we referred to in the Post, the same thing. Unless you clean that mess up, you have to bankrupt the whole system. Why do you bankrupt it? Because you're going to do something dirty to it? No, because it's worthless. You take the worthless currency, the worthless claims, and say, we're not going to pay these worthless claims. We're not going to play these lies and pay them off. And so the idea that we have problems in various parts of the world, we don't have problems in various parts of the world. We have a problem in the world. And part of the problem in the world is the stinking presidents we've had of late. George Bush Jr., what a jerk. But he was only an excuse for what we did to the United States. This jerk, this menace, this evil, brought in. We don't even know what his birthplace was. We don't know what his citizenship is. We don't have no proof that we can count on that he's actually a citizen. He's probably not qualified to be president. There was a mistake. We may have to change. But the point is, we have to decide. The planet is on the verge of thermonuclear war. It's getting closer all the time because it's built into the system. We have to change the system. In other words, you cannot negotiate with this war threat of thermonuclear war. You have to change the system. You cannot dictate terms within the system. You have to change the system. And to change the system is simple. If Russia, China, and the United States happen to agree with that purpose, it will happen. We need a President of the United States and a Congress of the United States which are true patriots, not people kissing the butt of the British Queen. We don't mind the people of Great Britain, the United Kingdom. We wish the best for them in the form of Glass-Steagall and things like that. Let them choose that. It's good. We want good for people. This is not simply a national problem. It's a global problem. Because what we're dealing with is a British Empire, which is an extension of the new Venetian party, which controls most of the planet. And this guy, Blair, should be given a visa for a permanent visit to the moon.